Hello there, and this one is called Overcoming Obstacles. And I've chosen to focus upon the poppies for this one because these are extraordinary, fascinating plants. Now, the life of a poppy begins as a seed. And the thing about the poppy seeds, as I'm about to show you, is they are so small. I'm literally sprinkling a few onto my hand there, and it just looks like almost like dust. Can you see there's a very tiny little sprinkling of dust there on my hands? That's it. Those tiny little fragments that you can see on my hand are poppy seeds. And that's how their lives begin, as tiny little seeds. And we sowed these seeds into seed trays, as we do. We watched them, and nothing seemed to happen because it was a particularly cold winter, early spring. A lot of time went by and nothing happened, and finally those tiniest little shoots popped up, really so small you could hardly believe it. And I realised that it would take quite a long time before we could actually prick them out and put them into their separate pots, because they were just so small, and it took them absolutely ages to grow large enough that it was finally possible to do this. And into the little pots they went, and some of them did not survive, and luckily for us the majority did survive. And eventually ages went by and you had these tiny little plants, so small, because it was a really cold spring. And eventually the cold spring gave way to some warm weather, and these tiny little plants started to grow, and they got bigger and they got bigger. And eventually I chose to put 3 little plants out in this corner of the garden, and all I'm doing is I'm just showing you part of one plant, and don't they just look so magnificent? Here they are blowing about in the breeze, and in the very centre of each one you can see that little thing. I always think it's like a pepper pot, and that contains the seeds, which is going to be for the next year. And I could simply leave the plants to die off, and the seeds would find their way into ground, and they could germinate on their own, and they may or may not make it. But here's the point. The point is the poppy, like all plants, they know about obstacles. There are so many obstacles between the original seed and the completed flowering plant, which is what you can see right here, right now. So this is my way of introducing you to something, and it's the power of sound, and it's the power of using an ancient magical language known as Sanskrit, and it's the power of working with this particular sound and using it to transform your perception of existence. It's known as the Ganesh mantra. It's also known as the emergency Ganesh mantra, and Ganesh is that deity from the Indian subcontinent that is the one that looks like an elephant, the head of an elephant, and this is renowned as being the remover of obstacles. So this is something that we experience as human beings. We get experience in our lives when we experience an obstacle. Something happens and it feels like an obstacle. So one of the things we can do is we can chant this Ganesh mantra, also known as the emergency Ganesh mantra, and it's known as that because when people get into really difficult situations, if they employ this mantra, those situations seem to unravel themselves really quite effortlessly. And it's all to do with the nature of reality being much more plastic than we give it credit for. And when I say plastic, I mean mutable. It can be changed, changeable. So what I'm going to do in this film is I'm going to conclude by actually telling you what the mantra is, and I'm going to make another film where you're actually going to sing the mantra. So the mantra is as follows. It's got 4 parts to it. The first one is Om. Om, that sound, Om, that's the sound of the creation of the universe from the perspective of the Indian subcontinent Hindu tradition. So Om is literally the sound of creation. So this Om is the first sound, followed by shipra, followed by prasadaya, and that's the long one, followed by namaha. So the first one is a single syllable, it's om. The second one is 2 syllables, it's shipra. The third one has got 4 syllables, prasadaya. 4 syllables, prasadaya. And the last one is 3 syllables, namaha. And so when you put all that together, it comes out something like this: Om Shipra Prasadaya Namaha. Om Shipra Prasadaya Namaha. Om Shipra Prasadaya Namaha. And that is a magical incantation for the removal of obstacles, and it's giving respect and appreciation to the Hindu deity Ganesh. So here's the thing, you could work with it like that. However, it's so much more interesting to make use of sound and melody. And so what we can do is we can literally become very creative and imaginative and turn it into whatever sound occurs to us. So that's the end of this film. This is immediately followed by the second one, where I'm actually going to make the sound.